The Witch of Umuoba School. This is a story of girl namely Adiz that was been bullied by her classmates. Kindly follow us as discover what becomes of them. Before we proceed, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more of our videos. Thank you for subscribing. It was a dark morning in Umuoba village. The clouds were heavy, and the air was thick with silence. Even the birds refused to sing that day. In the small school hidden deep within the forest, whispers traveled from ear to ear. They spoke of a girl. Her name was Adiz. Adiz was quiet. She sat in the corner of the classroom, always keeping to herself. Her uniform was old and torn, her shoes filled with holes. The other children laughed at her, mocked her every day. They called her names, threw her books on the floor, and even locked her in the storehouse sometimes. She never fought back. She never cried. She only watched them with her cold, dark eyes. But what no one knew was that Adiz was different. Her mother, a strange woman from a distant village, had warned her before she left for Umuoba, "My daughter, you must hide your power. Do not let them see who you truly are." For weeks, Adiz obeyed. She stayed silent, allowing the bullying to continue. At first, it was just small things. The children would laugh at her torn uniform, whisper about how she never spoke in class, or trip her as she walked down the narrow hallways. "Look at the witch girl," they would say. "She doesn't even talk like the rest of us. Maybe she's cursed." Even the teachers looked the other way. They had heard the rumors about her mother, the strange woman who lived alone near the boundary of the forest, who spoke to no one and often wandered into the woods at night. The teachers thought it best to let the children handle Adiz. After all, no one wanted to get too close to the daughter of a woman who was said to practice dark magic. But as time went on, the bullying grew worse. One day, Nkem, the biggest boy in the class, decided he had had enough of Adiz's strange behavior. During recess, he pushed her into the mud in front of everyone, causing them to roar with laughter. "Maybe if we wash the dirt off her, she'll stop being so strange," he joked as he grabbed a bucket of water and poured it over her head. Adiz simply stood there, drenched and covered in mud, her expression unchanged. The children jeered, but she did nothing. She only watched Nkem with those cold, dark eyes. "You're creepy," Nkem shouted, shoving her again. "Why don't you talk? Are you a ghost or something?" The other children joined in, chanting, "Ghost! Ghost! Adiz is a ghost!" They circled her, laughing and pointing. Adiz's hands clenched into fists, but she kept her head down. She remembered her mother's words. She couldn't let them see who she really was. Another week passed, and the bullying continued. Chica, the fastest girl in school, began to spread rumors that Adiz was a witch who had cursed her with bad luck. "Ever since she arrived, I've been tripping during races." Chica whined to the other girls. "It's her fault. I know it." The girls believed her. They began to taunt Adiz even more, hiding her shoes, pulling at her hair, and throwing stones at her when they thought no one was looking. One day, they locked her in the outhouse and left her there until sunset. But still, Adiz said nothing. She let the anger build inside her like a storm waiting to be unleashed. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind, "You must hide your power." Then came the day when the leader of the bullies, Ezen, took things too far. It was during lunch break. Adiz had found a quiet spot near the edge of the forest, away from the other children. She sat under a tree, quietly eating the small portion of yam her mother had given her that morning. But Ezen had been watching her. She and her group of friends approached Adiz, sneering. "Look at her, eating alone like a wild animal," Ezen said, her voice dripping with cruelty. "No wonder no one likes her." "Leave me alone," Adiz said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Ezen's eyes widened in mock surprise. "Oh, she speaks. The ghost girl can talk." She snatched Adiz's food from her hands and held it above her head. "What will you do now, ghost girl? Will you curse me?" The other children gathered around, eager to see what would happen. They laughed as Ezen tossed the food from hand to hand, teasing Adiz. But Adiz didn't ask for it back. She simply stared at Ezen with that same expressionless face. The wind outside suddenly picked up, causing the leaves to swirl and dance around the schoolyard. The air grew colder, sending chills down everyone's spine. "Ezen, give her food back," one of the boys whispered, feeling uneasy. But Ezen just laughed harder. "Why? What will she do? Cry?" Ezen mocked, throwing the food on the ground and stepping on it. Adiz slowly rose to her feet. Her eyes had darkened, her face pale. "You should not have done that," she said in a low voice, barely above a whisper. The clouds above seemed to grow even darker, and the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. Ezen's laughter stopped. She looked around nervously. What are you doing?" she stammered. But Adiz didn't answer. Instead, she pointed a finger at Ezen, and the girl was suddenly frozen in place, unable to move. Her eyes widened in terror as an invisible force lifted her off the ground. The other children screamed and ran, but the doors to the school slammed shut, trapping them inside. The wind howled louder, and strange shadows began to appear on the walls, twisting and turning like dark spirits. "Please, Adiz." "We're sorry," the children cried, but Adiz only walked towards Ezen, her eyes glowing a deep, unnatural red. "You bullied me," Adiz said in a voice that no longer sounded human. "You thought I was weak. But now you will see what I truly am." With a sudden scream, Ezen was thrown across the room, her body crashing into the wall. The lights flickered, and the shadows grew longer, as if they were alive, crawling toward the terrified children. In that moment, the villagers outside heard the screams. They rushed to the school, but the doors wouldn't open. They beat on them, calling for the teacher, for the children, but no one answered. Inside, Adiz stood in the center of the room. The shadows obeyed her command, wrapping themselves around the bullies, tightening like ropes. The children cried out, but it was too late. They had angered something far greater than they could ever imagine. When the villagers finally managed to break open the doors, the classroom was empty. There was no sign of the children, no sign of the teacher. Only Adiz was left, sitting quietly at her desk, her hands folded neatly on top. She smiled softly, but her eyes still glowed with that terrifying red light. From that day, no one in Umuoba dared to speak of what happened at the school. The villagers whispered that the forest had swallowed the children whole, that the spirits had taken their revenge. But others knew the truth. Adiz was not an ordinary girl. She was something far more dangerous. And if anyone in Umuoba ever dared to cross her again, they knew they would face the same fate as Ezen and her friends. The wind still whispered Adiz's name, carrying with it a warning: never judge a quiet girl by her silence, for you may awaken something far worse than you can handle. Thank you for watching. For more of this video, kindly support us by liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing to our YouTube channel at Chukwudi Alalar. Thank you once again.